formal good evening to all of you. It must be a pleasure to come this far. You have really worked too hard and too well and too meticulously. And I sincerely congratulate all of you for this success. So, today you must be aware that we are going to discuss about hobbies, right? Hobbies is one vague area which most of the times students are quite confused about, especially when they are filling the DAF. When the mains exam is approaching and students get that form and they have to fill it, they're like saying interests, hobbies, and they're like, what should I write? Because for past 1 or 2 years, I don't know what am I pursuing as a hobby. I mean, if I get enough to eat and sleep, that is the biggest luxury. So, pursuance of hobby per se becomes a challenge for most of the students who last practice their hobby maybe during school days or college days. So those students are like, okay, because it is a UPSC form, I need to fill it. I need to commit something. But will I be able to justify it? Maybe because of the lapse of time, because it's been really long since you have really pursued it. Or sometimes when you are calculating whether it is a hobby or an interest, or maybe you are really dynamic and multi-talented and you're good with many things. Then you're like, should I write many things, inviting more questions in the interview? Or should I be curt and precise and commit to just few segments? So bit by bit, as the date approaches, you start feeling sometimes confused and consulting teachers, or maybe some websites, or some selected candidates, or seniors, right? And you're like, सबसे best hobby बता, कौन सा भर दे? Easily जिसको justify कर दे, right? Okay, that's one thing. One more thing which all of you must have witnessed is that while you are preparing for this hobby part, many people would have said that, okay, these are the expected number of questions, to deal with it and that's fine, right? So for example, someone has written that, okay, I love to read poems or read short stories, then they'll be like, okay, read few common poems, popular poems, some stories, know about the author or the poet, okay, know about the literary trends, okay, the most popular ones, and most probably also know about what is going on internationally if possible, okay. Do not go too much in depth, just try to divert it into some social, cultural concern, or maybe something associated with IR or economy where you're more comfortable. Now, the interesting part is whether it is your general studies mains question paper or it is something associated with your interview. It is considered that the first few words that you write or you utter plays the most crucial role. It has been interviewed in past few years with respect to these ex-UPSC members. They also say that they are able to judge a student within the initial 5 to 10 minutes. They are able to see that what is the basic personality trait. The moment a student starts easing and responding to various questions, the basic texture and the contour of his personality is visible. Now the question is, what is interacted in the first few minutes of the interview? In the initial 10 minutes or 15 minutes, if we see, the examiner is talking about you, your personality. Maybe the examiner can show the picture in the DAF and just ask, is it you? Okay. And the second question which follows up is about hobby. The question is, why do they ask about hobby? Why not anything else most of the times? See, first and foremost, they know that there is a child who is barely 20s, okay, in 20s, and this child is not really confident after seeing us. We oldies in 50s or 60s, and the child is kind of unnerved, shaky. See, functional I would say fear, I mean not fear, rather I would say functional tension is fine. Functional tension means when you are just cornered and you are able to think faster. This happens just one day before the mains exam, functional tension. So you're able to finish 100 pages, 200 pages in revision, isn't it? Your brain works faster. Similarly, in an interview, you can see a student is like, the presence of mind is much sharper. A student is able to think fast, is able to interpret fast, is able to consolidate better in many situations. Sometimes the innate observations or real life situations which he has faced, he is able to quote them and illustrate them. Okay, which gives an empathetic connection with his immediate environment. That also happens. And sometimes the student starts fumbling. The student starts feeling confused. कि पता नहीं यार बोल रहे ठीक बोल रहे कि नहीं बोल रहे. And this over contemplation makes him mumble, take long pauses, okay, and then you can see that the confusion starts over there, and that might lead to a downgraded position. Now, these first 10 minutes, the moment the examiner is asking about the hobby, what is he actually trying to do? See, the moment you enter and you see a huge room, like, something like lesser than this one definitely, but a huge room. And there's a table and like 4 to 5 people are sitting over there. You know that there may be a psychologist who's analyzing your your movement, your physical gesture, your facial contortions, everything is observed. In such a situation, you might feel that I just don't know whether I'm like standing properly, I'm holding the chair properly, I'm wishing properly, I'm sitting down properly. So every single minute you are freezing. इतना डर रहता है, इतना confusion रहता है, और still आपको composed दिखना है. So they do realize that this is going to push you to the corner. Henceforth, what do? They first make you easy. And what makes you easy? Your personal life. What makes you easy? Those areas where you have a sense of comfort. Those things which are an innate part of your personality. Those things which are your experiential truth. तो जो आपका असल सत्य होता है उसमें आप बोलने में सोचने में ज़्यादा आज़ाद ख्याल होते हैं. And the moment you are more independent in thinking, pursuing, discussing about that very issue, what happens? You are able to exhibit the better part of yourself. So the examiner, the moment he starts asking about your hobbies, you start talking about it with more ease. You are able to think, imagine something which you have done, something which you have experienced, maybe with family, friends, peer group, or within a nook or a corner. So there is a lot that you can share. Okay. So there, the moment your level of anxiety comes down, okay, and the functional stress is going on, okay, the examiner now opens the house for others, whereby he keeps passing it from member to member for various other zones or areas which they want to evaluate or check. Now, as I shared with you guys, that the moment you write a GS answer or an essay, the first paragraph or the first 2 paragraphs of an essay plays the most crucial role. In general studies, the first 2 lines give the idea whether you know the answer or you'll be faffing it up. In the similar manner, in an interview, the first 5 to 10 minutes determines whether you are a deserving candidate or not. And see, it happens to you also. Like, let us consider you as a child, or even right now, suppose you are sitting in a class and you meet some boy and you talk to him 15-20 minutes. After going outside, you have an opinion about that boy, isn't it? So with your limited experience of 2 decades, you can frame opinion about people, whether they are cooperative, whether they are reserved, whether they are helpful, whether they'll be like kind of balanced, okay, part helpful, part restricted. Think about the examiner. He has seen 6 decades of his life. Okay, almost 6 decades. With that experience, they can really see through you despite the smile, despite the polished look, despite the poised approach. Okay, he can really see through you. He can understand whatever you are speaking, whether it is honest or not, whether there is integrity exhibited or not. Okay, so when we are talking about this possibility, we need to then ask that if, like let us say the examiner asks 10 or 15 questions, okay, out of which initial 4 or 5 questions were based on my interview, based on my hobby, and all the answers were correct, and he was satisfied, will he choose me as an IS officer? Is hobby a criteria of choosing an IS officer? Definitely not. Okay, first thing. Second thing, from hobby, what does he really want to interpret and conclude? What does he really want to know about me? How can my hobby help him to evaluate whether I have the administrative competence and the bureaucratic aptitude or not. How can a hobby really help? Right? The moment we find the answer to this question, we know how to fix our hobby. We know how to respond to a certain question sensibly. Right? Okay. So, going by that approach, if we are really trying to facilitate our hobby, I'll just help you with certain do's and don'ts, how to go about with it. Okay. So, first and foremost, we need to understand what is a hobby. For example, there have been candidates who end up, as I told you, that I have the sheet in which it's mentioned how many of you have committed for which kind of hobby. So few students have committed to a lot of hobbies, interestingly, okay? So one of them has written training and placement representation, mechanical on behalf of Students' Union in Nerist during 2011-12, painting, Kathak dance, diary writing, okay. Now that is a lot. So the examiner may comment, it seems you have a lot of interests, but not a hobby. So we need to understand what is the difference between an interest and a hobby. Any one of you would like to try it? What is an interest and what is a hobby? Yes, people? Yeah.
Interest is something which will come and will go. It's sporadic.
Okay, it's sporadic, good. And? Okay, it remains, all right. See, hobby is, definitely it is a part of your personality. Okay, so it is a part of your personality which you have ingrained over the years. So it has remained with you, okay, for a prolonged period of time. It has shaped you, okay. It has strengthened you. It has created umpteen possibilities for you. So, umpteen possibilities with respect to decision making, problem solving. Okay. See, the moment you say that, let us say, for example, some student says that, sir, and it actually happened few years back, one of the students, he was asked that, what is your hobby? So he committed to cooking. So he'd written cooking, he said that, sir, I like cooking. Now what can be the tentative types of question a student can prepare about cooking? See, the examiner is not interested to know the patterns of cooking. Okay, and you can see a lot of questions that students prepare. They prepare the nutritional content. From nutritional content, they'll see what is the ideal temperature. Okay, what is the maximum temperature of an oven. They'll see what is poaching, what is blanching, what is cutting, what is sorting, all these things. A student might get into the overall taste palette of Indians, how it varies in different parts of India. How is it different from the West? Why is Indian food not gaining that popularity as the Western food is getting? Okay, on global platform. So a lot of questions can be raised or can be prepared. But what was asked? The question that was asked from the student was, so which oil do you use? So he said, that's a XYZ oil, that what I am using. He's like, what is the price of 1 liter oil? Okay, now this factual question. There are times when you see that the examiner raises a lot of factual questions. The question is, why does the examiner raise up factual question? What do you interpret by factual questions in a hobby? Why are factual questions asked? Like for example, few of you had written you like yoga. Some of you practice yoga. I mean the sheet, you may be there or some other student has committed amongst you. It might not be belonging to you, but let us say someone is saying yoga. So the examiner might ask, what are the popular yogasanas that you do? Okay, then he can say that who practiced it initially? Since when is yoga practiced? What is the basic text? These are factual questions, okay. Why are factual questions asked? Or maybe like someone is saying that I like Kathak. So since when Kathak originated? Where did it originate? Who are the first performers of Kathak? These are factual questions. Why are factual questions raised whenever an examiner is asking about hobby? We need to understand that. From factual questions, he is determining your sense of honesty and integrity. Whether whatever you have written is true or not. So the student had prepared everything about cooking because he tried to fake it. but he didn't know what is the price of 1 liter oil. A random guess is not something which is entertained. Same thing happens, like sometimes a student can be asked like, okay, what were your subjects in graduation? You commit few subjects and then they are like, you are like, okay, out of 8 you are remembering 6, 2 you have forgotten. That means you are not committing to what you have mentioned in the paper. Hobby is a similar commitment. It is not a sporadic interest, as one of you have suggested, okay, which may come and go. That today I'm just loving to listen to music, tomorrow I'll start dancing, another day I'll just start gymnastics. No. It is something which has evolved over the years, okay, with which you can recognize yourself. Something which helps you to heal and relax. Something which helps you to attain that aesthetic satisfaction, okay, which can help you to think beyond a certain realm. Whenever you are strained, you look forward to your hobby. That nook or corner which gives you that relaxation, maybe with people or without people, accordingly whatever your hobby is. Okay, like for example, if it is singing or dancing, you need an audience. But there are times people are like, solo dancers and singers who don't necessarily look forward to an audience, right? Okay, so factual questions. What is the relevance of raising factual questions? So that is honesty, as you all can understand, and integrity. So the examiner is trying to interpret this part of your personality, how honest you are while committing that this is your hobby, how much integrity you are exhibiting towards declaring something as your hobby and proving that it is not a mere interest, okay, which is shifting after every some time or something like that, okay. Then there are certain questions which are opinion based. Have you experienced or have you read about opinions based questions? Like listening to the previous year interviews or like, some candidate declaring, oh, I was asked this or that. For example, the examiner asking you, does yoga truly heal you emotionally and spiritually? So this is an opinion based question, okay. Or is cooking therapeutic? Are you getting it? So opinion based questions are not based on facts. They may or may not be proved by facts. Most of the times they are based on interpretations, okay. Popular ideologies, thought patterns, and the way people perceive that concept. So what is the examiner trying to determine from the opinion based questions? We need to understand that. So the examiner is trying to determine your balance of judgment, okay. The examiner is trying to determine how like unbiased you are, okay. Your level of like, pragmatism. So pragmatism, your capability to rationalize, okay. So आपके अंदर तटस्थता कितनी है, तार्किकता कितनी है, समभाव होकर आप कितना सोचते हैं, समावेशन कितना, inclusiveness कितना है. So whatever you are like committing, the opinions that you are sharing, how much diverse, how much universal, how much inclusive it is. That is something that they are looking for. For example, if they are saying that Surya Namaskar should not be incorporated in the schools. Certain governments have tried to encourage Surya Namaskar. What is your opinion? Okay. So, the examiner is not really interested in Surya Namaskar, okay, or the science behind Surya Namaskar. He is interested in the fact that if you are a bureaucrat and if there is a similar instruction, okay, or you are in a body, in a committee where you have to give your suggestion, how will you go about with it? From the process of discussing it to the process of implementing it. So if you are promoting it as commitment towards health, commitment towards fitness, commitment towards well-being of the body, then it's perfectly fine. Are you getting it? But the moment your speech carries certain terms or words which seem to be promoted in a specific ideology, the examiner will smell the rat and he'll start directing all the questions in that direction. Okay, just to prove it time and again, okay, twice or thrice in the interview, and just get a sense of your level of biases or whether you're prejudiced or not. I hope you're understanding this bit, okay? So, yes, opinion-based questions, they do this. That is why, like, one of the students jokingly last year just asked that, ma'am, I just love to sleep. I can sleep for hours together. It is therapeutic, it heals me, it strengthens me up. I feel very creative. When I'm part asleep, specifically at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I feel like having that poetic inclination. Can I write it in my DAF? Okay, what do you think? Can sleeping be written as a hobby? You're pursuing it regularly. It is nurturing you. Can it be written? No. Habits which are biological or natural in nature cannot be treated as a hobby. It is a necessity. Okay. You can expand it and make it a luxury. That, oh, आज तो 12 घंटे सो लिया, तोड़ दिया पलंग. ठीक है? उस type की feeling आ सकती है. ठीक है? But the thing is, it cannot be treated as a hobby. Similarly, some people, they are connoisseurs of food. They love eating. Big time glutton. They can eat like anything. Okay? But can you write eating as a hobby? Definitely not. But then we have sommeliers. We have people who taste food also. We have people doing hotel management to learn the basic dynamics of it. है ना? तो जो लोग खाना बना रहे हैं लगातार, ठीक है, ड्रिंक्स टेस्ट कर रहे हैं, यहाँ तक कि अभी मैंने recently पढ़ा कि someone was tasting water. Okay, and in Germany this guy is developing the different types of water, and the most expensive bottle of water that he was showing to the people, it was worthy of $5,000. I was like, oh my God, 1 liter bottle of water and $5,000. तो हॉबी है, तो हॉबी को आप किस लेवल पर वर्क कर रहे हैं? एग्जामिनर से कई लोगों से ऐसे पूछ भी देता है कि अच्छा, your hobby is something like teaching the child. One of the students has written that the child is into social work and he is also interested in teaching the primary school students, okay, and has worked on various social platforms, You Are Revolution and something like that, okay. So, and also Kitabganj. Kitabganj is another platform where the child must be educating the youngsters. Now, this student, Prashant Sagar, okay, who has committed this very bit, who has given this DAF in Dhey, okay. So, this very child, he has written he is interested into social work. ठीक ठाक chance है कि इनसे क्या पूछा जाएगा? So, why don't you aspire to become a teacher? Why don't you do a master's in education? Okay, and contribute in educating the children. We need like really good teachers in India. There's a dearth of good teachers in India, right? Or similarly, कोई लिखा कि playing cricket, तो बहुत सारे facts पूछा. But suppose you are fumbling with facts, or the person is asking that why playing gully cricket, why not aspiring for Ranji? What will be your answer in that situation? What will be your answer? Why are you not pursuing it as a career, as an occupation, if you are so passionate about it? Because it is a hobby, not an obsession. People who are really obsessed about their hobby, they pursue it as an occupation. जिनको अपनी hobbies बहुत पसंद होती हैं, जिससे वो एकदम enriched ही नहीं होते, उनको लगता है इसके अलावा मैं कोई और काम नहीं कर सकता, वो क्या करते हैं? They start moving towards it as a career. So आपको क्या जवाब देना है उसमें, उस समय? So you will be saying that, sir, I'm really interested and thrilled about this hobby, but I do not look forward to it as an obsession. I feel that I can balance my energy while pursuing the hobby as well as while taking care of my other basic necessities. I hope all of you are understanding this, right? Okay. So you need to balance both the segments. Now, other than the opinion-based question and the factual question, we can further see the other dynamics. For example, like when I was speculating these DAFs and the way you guys have come up with various options. So one of the student has said that I love to play a guitar. Okay, either of you, I don't know who it is. So again, factual questions, since when, like, guitar came into existence, how many types of guitars are there, What kind of guitar do you like to play? Okay, have you ever performed it publicly? So these are the questions, factual kind of questions. But what is the examiner really looking forward to? Do you have a natural inclination towards playing guitar or not? Or is it just committed on paper? Getting it? Okay. So the natural inclination should be exhibited by you in your choice of words that you speak. I'll always advise that you can prepare a contour of your hobby. What are the dynamics? What are the dimensions? What are the popular questions? What are the expected questions? What you really want to share? You can make a list. You can memorize the keywords so that when you speak, you have precision. You speak a sentence or two, but you are really good. You are balanced. See, many people say that, okay, writing practice is necessary for mains. I believe to a certain extent, it is also required for interview as well. Because when you're reflecting towards the answers, most of the times you are fumbling or you are kind of jumbled with the terms and terminologies, or you're going too vague, or you expand the entire answer. Something which can be spoken in 3 to 4 sentences, you end up speaking it for 10 sentences. Okay, or maybe after 7th sentence only the examiner barges in and he's like, okay, fine. How about this answer? How about that perspective? So he cuts you short. तो एग्जामिनर इससे पहले कि आपको रोक दे, ठीक है, आप खुद ही रुक जाएं. और कैसे रुकेंगे? संपूर्णता के साथ. When you complete it. And when do you bring completion to your answer? When you have brought every perspective to the core. And how do you bring every perspective to the core? When you have identified the perspectives and memorized it. Okay? So, if it is really a part of your personality, I would say at least fix the facts. And after fixing the facts, put words to it. Okay? And after putting the words, put it in a linguistic framework for yourself. That will be immensely helpful. I hope all of you are understanding. Facts also shows a degree of connectivity and alertness. Okay, so here what we had been discussing, you can add some dimensions. So honesty, integrity, all this I said. Then you can also write on alertness. How alertness? I'll share this. Students, most of the times in previous year, whenever you ask, like suppose the child has written, I love to read novels or stories. Okay, this happened last year. One of the Hindi medium students said that, I love to read stories. I was like, okay. So, which are the latest stories that you have read? And the child was like, प्रेमचंद का पढ़ा था. अच्छा, तो आप कहानी और उपन्यास प्रेमचंद के बाद किसका पढ़े? Who are the like other authors whom you have read? Ma'am, I was like, why? Did people stop writing after प्रेमचंद? समझ रहे हैं आप इस चीज को? उसी तरीके से मान लीजिए कथक में आपसे पूछा, या बैडमिंटन आप प्ले कर रहे हैं, किसी ने पूछा कि now everyone knows the 3 women players, but 3 male players, do you know them? Do you know their performance? So suppose you have committed badminton and the examiner asks, give me the name of 3 badminton players playing at present, not in past. And you're like, male players. So that means your level of alertness towards your hobby, the sense of connectivity with your extended background is not there. देखिए, जो इंसान अपने माहौल से जुड़ा होता है वही बाकी सिचुएशंस में भी एम्पैथेटिक कनेक्ट एग्जिबिट करता है. जो अपने हॉबी जिसको कमिट कर रहा है और जिसमें उसको मजा आ रहा है उसमें कनेक्टेड नहीं है, तो वो बाकी चीजें जो उसको सीखनी है उसमें क्या कनेक्टिविटी एग्जिबिट करेगा. Are you understanding that? So the moment you say, the moment you share that yes, this is something which I like, and the moment you start fumbling with the basic facts, what does it prove? That you are unable to commit to your hobby to the core. ठीक है? So level of alertness आपका अच्छे तरीके से exhibit होना चाहिए. साथ में और क्या होना चाहिए? There should be a fine degree of connectivity. Okay, connectivity with your hobby. So connectivity with what? Current issues. Okay, current issues. You should have reliable data and facts. So you can just reliable datas and facts. Okay, so when these segments are fixed, the factual questions, the initial first 10 minutes of your interview goes smooth sailing. Don't create ruffled feathers in the initial go, because पहले ही होगा अच्छा ठीक है एवरेज कैंडिडेट, ये फीलिंग आ जाती. ऑथेंटिसिटी नहीं है, प्रिपेयर्ड नहीं है, जो चीज़ें कमिट कर रहा है, प्रूव नहीं कर पा रहा है, पहले ही 10 मिनट में इंप्रेशन बन गया, फिर आगे आपने 2-4 क्वेश्चन और फंबल किए, तो फिर इट्स लाइक ऑल द मोर स्ट्रेंथेंड. Getting it? See, it is not an evaluation of mind, not evaluation of facts and figures. Okay, it might sound a little contradictory, but I mean it. It is not an evaluation of facts and figures. So suppose some question related to general studies is asked, like something which is going on economically or politically or environmentally, and you're fumbling with 2 or 3 facts. That is not a big deal for the examiner. Why? Because the factual evaluation has already been done through mains. So there he does give you a benefit of doubt. Okay, fine, there are a lot of facts, a lot of range of facts that can be raised. He is able to understand and answer most of them. 2 or 3 are missing, and that doesn't bring a big difference. Fine. But hobby is something which you have committed, and something which you are declaring that you've enjoyed it over the time period, maybe 5 years, 7 years, 10 years or more. So you cannot fool around with it. I hope you can see the difference. So some current facts you're missing, you're not updated, that's okay. But don't fool around with the basic of your personality. Okay. Also understand and remember that a person who's conducting the interview, if the person is let us say a psychologist, he is going to also judge your bureaucratic aptitude through it. So now the question is, how do we analyze a hobby? Okay, so how do hobbies come into existence? Let us see that. So let me explain you the basic background of it. So any human being, if we are talking about him, he is comprising of 3 elements: the emotional element, right, the rational element, and the third element is the acting element. So the emotional, the rational, and the action part of you is consolidating the wholesome you who is sitting here or who shall be facing the interview. Okay, this you can also exhibit these 3 elements, okay, through the basics of your hobby. See, how does hobby gets created? Let us see. So we can see it's your emotions, and then the second layer is of beliefs, and the third layer is of the behavior. These 3 layers comprise of your hobby. A deep emotional connect, which you establish with your hobby, okay, is exhibited when you're passionate about it. I'll give you an example. A few years back, there was this student from there, he got selected. So when his interview was going on, he got a very brilliant marks. He got like 215. So that child, when we were discussing, he narrated the entire interview. So when the entire interview was going on, his hobby was singing. He expected few questions related to singing. And he was prepared that if they ask me, I'll sing also, okay? And he was not asked a single question on his hobby. When the entire interview was over, then he just requested that the interview normally, when it gets over, the board mostly asks you, do you want to ask something? Do you want to share anything more? Okay, so the same thing was raised. Then he was like, yes, sir, if you don't mind, may I request? Then the board was like, yes, please go ahead. Then he said that, sir, can I just sing before you all? Because it is a very big opportunity for me to be sitting before such an enlightened crowd. And I really want to sing before you all and get a critical acclaim from you. So the board member was visibly startled, okay? But then he said, yes, why not? And he sang a beautiful ghazal with the full tincture, with his soul and heart. And after that, the board members clapped and they congratulated him, and then he was sent. See, it shows the possibility of initiation, that you can initiate. It shows that there is a deep connect, okay, with what you are committing. Okay, it shows that you are enjoying it to the fullest. That means there is a sense of evolved emotional intelligence. Are you realizing this? Okay, and also you have the capability to connect very well with people. So you have got good communication skills. And most of these qualities are required for a bureaucrat. right? So you need to understand that the very deeper emotional connect of your hobby is exhibited in your choice of words and the way you explain the answer. No one can train you about that languaging. Your experience will shape it. Okay? Now, beliefs. When we are talking about beliefs, what do we interpret and understand by beliefs? What do you understand by the belief system? So, belief is nothing but we can consider through the beliefs, the examiner is trying to test your opinions. Okay, the opinions that you have framed, the values that you have framed with the help of the hobby. So in this part, the moment the examiner is asking opinion-based questions, he's actually testing your beliefs and values. I hope you're understanding till this bit. Okay? All right. So how well, see, beliefs, how are beliefs synergized? So beliefs are synergized, like whenever we are talking about beliefs, beliefs are synergized with reference to your prolonged experience, contemplation, right? Step by step evolution, little feats that you have achieved. Okay, so sir, in standard 5th, when I was unable to play guitar properly, one of my seniors taught me the trait. When you pull the string like this and when you hold it like this, okay, and when you play in this rhythm, the first song that I learned was Happy Birthday to You, and I used to play it for all my friends. So now this is showing that innocent you, okay, and also someone who knows how to celebrate life in even the smallest of the things. Okay. That also adds some positivity in the boardroom because you're talking about achievements also, right? Okay. So always remember, whenever you're talking about the opinion-based questions, your belief system is evaluated. And what is behavior? What do you understand by behavior? So behavior is the expression of the hobby. What do you do? How is it a part of your routine, or it is not a part of your routine? Or what are the social norms which influence it? So, or like let us say, how is it synergizing you? Okay, how is it creating changes in you? How are you progressing with it? Okay, hobbies, if we further reflect, then we can see that hobbies most of the times, they are introduced to us, any of the hobbies we can just take. So they are introduced to us sometimes by our personal experience because we get some good or happy feeling, wow feeling, मजा आ गया करके, तभी तो हॉबी बनता है. मतलब for me, reading can be a hobby and I can read for hours together. One book after another, just enjoying it, la la la. It's like music for me. Okay. And for some people, watching Game of Thrones, the entire series, and series after series, okay, and similar such series, not necessarily Game of Thrones, other series can be a hobby. Watching movie back to back can be a hobby. Listening to some symphony can be a hobby. I can concentrate better, I can study better. Many people say that. It can be a hobby. Right? So please understand that personal experience, pleasant personal experience connects you to the hobby initially. Then you get a veritable environment, like it can be coming from family, or it can be coming from maybe like let's say peer group, it can be coming from your school. Okay? So you need to interpret since when you started preparing it. Try to pull that natural tincture, एकदम से random मत करना, ठीक है? हॉबी का सोल पकड़ो कि कब से मैंने उसको एंजॉय करना शुरू किया, कब से मैंने उस चीज पे वर्कआउट करना शुरू किया, ठीक है? So you can just put these references, or maybe you saw something through some media or some other source of information which really inspired you. Okay. For example, my brother, when he was getting trained, he was like, I was really in one of the places where I couldn't learn much because there was limited internet connectivity. So I had downloaded a lot of videos related to guitar, okay? And I learnt guitar while observing it. So there can be umpteen number of sources which can help you to develop the hobby, learn a skill, take up a skill, and then practice it and further evolve with it, right? Okay. Then you can also consider it that over the time period, these hobbies will start influencing your self. It will start shaping your knowledge. It will also shape your personal goals. And over the time period, not just personal goals, The opinion-based questions also gives an insight about your professional ethics and competence. So professional ethics, and maybe even the goals can get shaped or influenced by it. So it is this way then. So once you understand this pattern, how is hobby coming into existence, you understand how it is influencing, and accordingly you can see the veritable impact. Okay? Now, so with this, again, sometimes we see some examiners come up with certain questions, like they'll ask about the historical part of the hobby. And sometimes the examiner asks about the contemporary part of the hobby. Why historical questions? Since when did this come into existence? What is the relevance of, someone has said Kathak, someone has said Bharatnatyam, someone is like cricket. So they start asking, कब से cricket आया, कब से खेल रहे हैं, क्यों खेल रहे हैं? Why are Indians roped into it? Why not hockey? Why is hockey lost? Since when it got lost? Okay, World Cup important. I'm least interested in cricket, personally speaking. Okay, so the thing is that students, I mean, आप देखेंगे जनता बिल्कुल पागल हो जाती है. Literally पटाखे वटाखे फोड़ना तो बहुत कम है, और भी बहुत हंगामा करती है, right? So we need to understand कि ये जो लोग enjoy कर रहे हैं अपने basic hobbies को, या जो भी they are committing, on what basis are they committing? How are they taking up these hobbies? And what is the texture of it? एक बार हम इस चीज़ को समझ गए तो इसको ड्राफ्ट करना इजी होगा. तो हिस्टोरिकल क्वेश्चंस क्यों पूछा जाता है? क्योंकि आपको उसमें इतना इंटरेस्ट है कि आप उसके रूट्स पकड़ रहे हैं. Are you able to catch hold of the roots? Are you able to interpret the dimensions? Okay, are you able to connect with all the other, like, predecessors? How have they evolved their skill? Did they inspire you? Okay, आप देखेंगे जैसे ऐसे कुछ बच्चों ने sketch, paint ये सब लिखा है. There is a possibility that they may ask that what is the difference between the pattern of painting of Van Gogh and, like, let us say Raza. So how does Raza Sahab paint? What are the different isms associated with painting and sketching? So these kind of questions that are asked. Okay, so historical questions, why are they asked? To see how deeply rooted you are with it. Have you understood the patterns? Did you try to learn and evolve accordingly? Okay? Okay. Now, along with this, we can also see that there are some contemporary questions asked. Contemporary means ekdam current ka question. Presently, who are the popular painters from India? What are the which are the popular galleries in India? Have you visited those galleries? Can painting be a means of livelihood? Okay. Which are the popular auction houses where the paintings are exhibited and sold? ऐसा कुछ क्वेश्चन अगर आपसे पूछता है तो करंट का क्वेश्चन क्यों पूछा? Yes, people, why is current question asked according to you? I've given the answer earlier. Yes, connectivity good, and alertness very good, and commitment, honesty, right? Okay, so you have to maintain that. Okay, so be aware about what is the present development of your hobby. Okay, personally after this session, I mean, because this is a lecture that I have to, I was supposed to deliver related to hobby, so I'm delivering the basic the texture of the dimension of hobby. What is hobby? Since when did it emerge? How is it influencing? How has it come into existence? Okay, but once this entire session is over, I will take your questions like one-on-one, okay? And I will be guiding you with respect to how many questions can be raised, how can you prepare it, how can you go about with it, okay? And how can you also reflect, how some basic issues related to your presentation can be fixed. Okay, so I'll be talking about that, but in a short while. Let us just work out towards few more dimensions which we can substantiate, okay? So, like, let us say when we are talking about hobby, then this bit you should just understand, and I hope you will, okay, that your choice of hobby determines, and I mean it determines what kind of personality you are. Personality, or rather human being, so being you are. For example, there are 3 types of characteristics, like इसको human psychology में लोग interpret करते हैं. For example, one is the biological identity या biological being. People who exhibit, like let us say, I love cycling, I love doing yoga, I love to go for running, sprinting, participating in marathon, okay, or I love gymming, I love playing cricket, playing football. They are more of biological beings. तो इनसे क्वेश्चन कैसे बनेगा? तो इनसे न्यूट्रिशन, balance between health and like the physical and the spiritual and the mental, this will be tested. कि ऐसा तो नहीं कि the inclination is more towards the physical fitness part. Is the person also evolved mentally? Means in situation based questions, is the person secular? Is the person democratic? Are you getting it? Not just by writing mains answer of Indian society or social justice or governance. The examiner will be asking you questions which are reflecting your balance. क्यों? क्योंकि इसका physical part तो दिख रहा है, ठीक है, कि ये physically जो है ये इस चीज को exhibit करने की कोशिश कर रहा है. So he will be seeing that what are the central tendencies of your personality, what is your personal rhythm, and from those central tendencies what cultural rhythm can be interpreted. Okay, and from that, so like let us say, अगर कोई इंसान biological being अपने आप को दिखा रहा है, तो the person will definitely have spatial intelligence. उसको idea रहेगा कि like how to balance in what area, how to work it out in crisis situation. तो आपको पता है ये IPS के लिए fit है बंदा, वैसे ही आपको feeling आने लगती है. तो आप छोटे मोटे questions उससे पूछते हैं, which proves that yes, he has worked on your hobby, or he is true with his hobby. Okay. Similarly, there is also called body kinesthetic, or yeah, we can say this kinetic plus aesthetic, दोनों को मिलाकर this word aesthetic. Okay. Body kinesthetic intelligence. This element is there in the person. Okay. Neutralistic intelligence is there in the person. So the person will try to determine what? Whether you are good in managing relationships, so like the social, cultural, whether you are good in fulfilling your duties, whether you are good in balancing the social life. Are you getting it? So if you are into something associated with your body alignment, then the social alignment, cultural alignment, political alignment shall be tested. उसी तरीके से हम लोग कई बार देखते हैं there are people who are more of social beings. So who is a social being? आप में से अगर किसी ने अपने DAF में डाला है like let us say जो मैंने देखा like social work, right to education, teaching, or maybe someone has also put singing, dancing. Okay, someone is like organizing cultural event. Okay, so all these have come through your DAF that I'm holding in the paper. And I'm constantly referring and then I'm sharing it with you so that everyone can connect that, okay, yes, this was something which I wrote. And yes, she is just sharing that very bit. So this shows that you're a social being. A social being, if we talk about a social being, that proves that the person has interpersonal intelligence. The person knows how to interact, balance a conversation, strike a conversation, okay, maintain the space whereby he is also speaking and ready to listen. Right? He has ethos. He also has empathy. Right? He has apathy. Okay? A lot of things. Okay? Again, you can see that the person can have linguistic skills. Such people generally have linguistic skills. Okay? Then what shall be tested? How ethical and moral the person is while delivering the things. Okay? Or maybe something like related to the holistic welfare. How far the person can contemplate. Okay, is the welfare quotient of the student who wants to connect with people? मैं दुनिया का भला करना चाहता हूँ, मैं जनता का उद्धार करना चाहता हूँ, ठीक है? So ये जनता का उद्धार, दुनिया का भला, all that. But what if you are not an IAS officer? नहीं बन पाए तो करोगे? कैसे करोगे? So is the social being a true one or is he a fake one? ये सच्चा है या झूठा है, इसको इवैल्यूएट किया जाता है. समझ रहे हो? तो सोशल बीइंग अगर हो तो इज इट ओनली फॉर लाइक क्रैकिंग द एग्जाम, और इज इट ओनली टू मीट सम गोल, सम फाइनेंशियल गोल, और इज इट रियली अ पार्ट ऑफ योर पर्सनैलिटी? फाइन. Okay, similarly, the third criteria which I noted is individual being. The individual being, जैसे जो लोग स्वयं में जीते हैं, reading. Okay, you don't need a second person, an audience. Dancing, singing, ये सब के लिए आपको चाहिए होता है. Reciting poetry, okay, educating children, you need an audience, you need someone. लेकिन आपको poems लिखने के लिए, drawing के लिए, sketching के लिए, listening to songs के लिए, you don't need anyone. ठीक है, बैठे में अपना गाना भी सुन रहे हैं, ठीक है, अपना कुछ वॉच कर रहे हैं, टीवी सीरीज देख रहे हैं, और इन योर सेल्फ. सो एन इंडिविजुअल बीइंग नॉर्मली हैज लॉजिकल इंटेलिजेंस. क्यों? अपने साथ समय बिता रहा है. सो व्हेन अ पर्सन इज विद इन हिमसेल्फ, हिज लॉजिकल इंटेलिजेंस इज टू इवॉल्व्ड, right? Such a person will also have existential intelligence. What is existential intelligence? The most evolved one, Buddha. Okay, existential intelligence. तो ऐसे लोग बहुत चिंतन मनन करते हैं, contemplate बहुत करते हैं. So such people you will see that they may also exhibit intrapersonal skills. Intrapersonal skills doesn't mean interpersonal. दूसरे से intrapersonal, खुद के अंदर चिंतन, स्वयं से बातें करना, स्वयं को समझना, understanding your inner world, your inner universe, the dynamics of it. Okay, so such person is very good with it. Okay, what will be tested? Is the sense of freedom only towards self or others also? Is this sense of awareness only towards self or about the real world also, the outside world also? Is this person also interested in other types of creative pursuits, some scientific discovery? Okay, तो ये intellectual capabilities इंसान के अंदर है कि नहीं है. With his sense of reflection, how is the person going to reflect over a situation, contribute towards the society? Right, so people who write, I love to meditate or something, उनको stress based, situation based question दे दिया, अगले ने situation में कुछ manhandling कर दी, तो सही कहता है अच्छा अब तो meditation करते हैं. So I think you could have contemplated a solution, right? So what is this? No, they are not making a sarcastic comment. They are saying this is your strong suit. Exercise it. Are you getting it? एक क्वेश्चन का रिस्पॉन्स जो है उसको देखने के दो तरीके होते हैं. यू कैन ऑलवेज सी इट फ्रॉम द टू पर्सपेक्टिव्स. सो वेदर द एग्जामिनर इज एक्चुअली बीइंग सार्कास्टिक, नो, द पर्सन इज रिमाइंडिंग यू ऑफ योर स्ट्रॉन्ग सूट. एक्सरसाइज इट. ओके, I hope you are understanding that how you have to listen to the examiner. Be a careful listener. You will be able to find many answers of the interview within what is suggested, what the examiner wants to listen, where to shut down, where to reiterate, the do's and don'ts. Okay, anyway, so the hobbies, how have you enriched it over the years? तो इससे रिलेटेड अगर आपको टेस्ट करेगा एग्जामिनर तो क्या देखेगा? सो लाइक लेट अस से एनरिचमेंट प्रोसेस. सो द एनरिचमेंट प्रोसेस ऑफ अ हॉबी. सो द एनरिचमेंट प्रोसेस ऑफ अ हॉबी इज determined from, first, the examiner will check whether you have self-monitored yourself or you have been monitored by someone else. So agar aap dusre se bhi monitored hue, maan lijiye, like let us say if someone is a fitness freak and the gym trainer is saying eat this, do this, okay, do so many crunches, this has to be done, but it's not always the gym trainer who's making it like to be done. You are coming to the gym, you are committing to fitness, you are eating carefully. So that is your personal commitment, that is your self-monitoring. So any hobby to its core requires self-monitoring. It requires self-regulation. And with self-regulation, what can you do? So you can, with respect to self-regulation, you can minimize negativity. All the negative personalization that you can possess can be minimized. Negative पर्सनलाइजेशन, मुझे लोगों से बात करने में डर लगता है, ठीक है, लेकिन गाता हूं तो बहुत अच्छे से गा लेता हूं. पहले डर लगता है, देन आई कैन रियली सिंग. सो नेगेटिव पर्सनलाइजेशन, लाइक लेट अस से यू आर अ पर्सन हु इज हैविंग लाइक द थ्रेट कि क्राउड का फियर है, मैं क्राउड को कैसे फेस करूंगा, ठीक है, मैं पीपल या पब्लिक को कैसे फेस करूंगा. सो व्हेन यू आर सेल्फ मॉनिटरिंग एंड यू नो दैट यू आर गुड, व्हेन यू नो यू आर करेक्ट, when you know your opinions are balanced, your actions are fine, then you are able to exhibit it. So उसमें आपका जैसे कुछ issues like fear हो सकता है, rejection हो सकता है, ये सारी चीजें आप ओवरकम करने लगते हैं, तो नेगेटिव पर्सनलाइजेशन कम होने लगता है. मे बी कम्युनिकेशन का इशू जो है, कई बच्चे फंबल करते हैं, दे आर नॉट इजी, अनकंफर्टेबल टॉकिंग टू पीपल, सो कम्युनिकेशन, ऑल दीज थिंग्स स्टार्ट वर्किंग आउट. इवन इन फ्यू केसेस इट हेल्प्स यू टू also be an effective problem solver. So problem solving can also be sorted out. Right? So maybe you have never taken hobby so sincerely. You thought, अच्छा hobby ही तो है, बता देंगे क्या कर रहे हैं, गा रहे हैं कि बजा रहे हैं, ठीक है, और किस तरीके से वर्कआउट कर रहे हैं. सो हॉबी कैन हैव सो मेनी dimensions to it, so many perceptions associated with it, related to emotional quotient and bureaucratic temperament and bureaucratic attitude, and whether the person is a normal man or a bureaucratic man, right? So all this can be tested through a hobby. You might not be perceiving it like that, but right now you must be feeling, oh, it is something serious. So this serious business needs to be fixed. I cannot be casual about it. So when I'm responding to those questions also, I have to be not only look sincere, but I have to think sincerely and respond sincerely. Something which many a time students don't fix to the core. And that's why they are very casual or generalized in their answer. Right? It doesn't mean you have to be like acting like a professional. It's not an obsession, but you need to have clarity. Many a times the responses are not having clarity. So have clarity. Bring that clarity. Okay. So finally, I would like to say that, or rather I'll conclude this, that hobbies can help you to determine how to set your social goals. It can also help you to enact a public policy, because you know how to enact your commitments that you have shaped related to hobby. And it can also help you to develop your EQ to understand, the behavior of the people, the inside and the outside of us, like people whom you're like, interacting with, the inside truth and the outside expression. Also not only seeing through that, but also people, whether you're interacting in the system, some minister, some senior, your batchmate or your colleague or your junior, or the common people outside the system, either of them. So the moment you're professed in your hobby, you can exhibit these three tendencies. Right? So I hope you're understanding the theoretical perspective and the connotations associated with hobby, right? Okay.